Chapter 9 Extracurricular Activities and Elementary Years Continued, and some Puberty Awkwardness. You know, I may have been the only kid to play soccer for 4 years and never get a goal. Not one damn goal. Okay, it wasn't for 4 years straight. It was actually for 4 consecutive summers. How did I get roped into these activities? It wasn't a ton of activities, but like I said before, it was more than brother and sister went through. Brother did cubs and piano lessons, and sister did piano lessons for a brief period of time too. If nursery school counts, sister went to that as mom's way to help her not be the most anxious, hyper little kid. As for me, I snorted up the public swimming pool for a whole summer with swimming lessons, did an awkward year of Girl Guides, did a somewhat pathetic stint of piano lessons when I was a young teen, and actually, if you'll excuse me, I have to talk to my piano teacher for just a moment. Sorry, Mr. Piano Teacher. You were so lovely and kind, and I was so bad at actually practicing. Remember that utterly, excruciatingly humiliating time it was patently clear that I hadn't practiced at all that week prior to my lesson? And you didn't get angry, which is somehow almost worse, but instead you wrote out a check for a refund of that lesson for me to give to my dad. And then you sent me home? You don't know this, but I tried to be okay with it and said that there was no need to worry about how I'd get home, and instead of letting you call my parents, I tried to run home and make it there in time before that half hour was done, and my dad would be on the way to pick me up. Even though it was a pretty long walk, so I really had to book it. Probably cried along the way. Can't remember for sure because I wanted to cry a lot when I was young. Don't know why I tried to prolong that agony because my parents realized something was amiss as soon as I fake cheerfully popped through the door. Surprise! I'm home and you didn't even have to pick me up! Isn't that nice of me? Why did I walk home? Oh, yeah, that. They were pissed. God, it was embarrassing. But yeah, how it ended up that one day I was in line at the local Lions Club, signing up for minor girls soccer with an absolutely delighted dad, I am not sure. I think there was a little parental coaxing, brainwashing, involved. Dad enjoyed sports though, and always hoped that one of his kids would play one, even though, by and large, none of us were sports kids. That first year I played soccer was for a team named after a local auto service. I was slightly excited that first year, before things really got rolling. I think I was 8 my first year, but who the hell remembers exactly? Practices started in advance of any games, of course. For years I had murky dreams of showing up for my first soccer practice on a humid, cloudy day, always with a feeling of unease, uncertainty, and a sense of why did I agree to do this? In real life, after that first practice, I decided maybe soccer wasn't for me. I let my parents know when they asked me that night after I'd returned. I don't think I like soccer. Mom, why not? There are no pretty girls on my team. Mom, annoyed and disgusted. It's not a beauty contest! Eventually, we received our uniforms. Red shirt with the auto shop's name on the back in white cursive, white shorts, and excitingly long red socks. I could pull them all the way up to the top of my legs, which was quite cool, as I had never had any socks of that luxurious length. The drawback of those socks is that they were very thick and kind of fuzzy. Thick and fuzzy in summer is not exactly ideal. At last it came time for our first game. As luck would have it, it would be played at the park down the street from my own house. All I remember from that game is a frantic and aggressive scrambling around the soccer ball at all times, doing my best to just get in there and kick. No real strategy in mind, just get in there with the team and fire those legs with everyone else to move that ball somewhere. That's what all the other girls seemed to be doing too. In those chaotic huddles, I got kicked in the shins. A lot. That did not feel good at all. I also didn't have soccer cleats at that point yet, and my weak tread runners were a bit slippy on the grass. After the game, I lamented my agonized shins, Elated Dad remarked that some people put magazines in their socks and against their legs to protect their shins from getting kicked. Probably these same people enjoyed games with a stick and a hoop at some point in their lives. Luckily, I got a set of shin pads right away. It's actually pretty amazing too, considering how thrifty, cheap, my parents were with everything. I'm amazed I didn't have to put magazines under my socks. That soccer summer passed by okay, I guess. I remember feeling unbelievably hot and sweaty after those games, and I'd have to take those socks and roll them down to my ankles like big red donuts. The biggest issue was that I had no clue about the actual positions on the field. It's like the coaches just assumed that everyone already knew how to play soccer before they signed up, and it was far too embarrassing to actually admit, as the coach told us what position we'd play for that game, that I had no idea where I was supposed to be going. Right wing, left wing, halfback. I would head out on that field sweating bullets, of nerves, not just from the summer heat, and I'd hiss out unobtrusively as I could to my friend Julie, who, amazingly, happened to be on my team that year, "Where do I stand?" And she'd point to an area on the field and say, "There!" So I'd head there. And then I'd spend that whole game either doing some frantic kick, kick, kick with everyone else to make it look like I was in there doing something, or dancing around near the ball, but not really actually getting in there to also make it look like I was doing something. I did a lot of dancing around the ball without actually kicking it, I must say, and I have been inclined to think that this is something of a metaphor for most of my life. Dancing around the ball, too nervous to really get in there, making it look like I'm really immersed in it all, but in truth, I am not. Fuck, I hated it when that analogy occurred to me. The next 2 summers kind of blurred together. A new team, a new red shirt and white shorts. One summer's team I played on was okay, and one was total shit. One of those years I learned firsthand what getting the wind knocked out of you meant. There was a girl on the other team. She was kind of infamous in the soccer world already. She was tall for her age, thick, brawny, and solid, and had an immensely powerful kick. She fired one off during the game, and that ball rocketed toward me and hit me square in the forehead. I fell straight over backwards, lost a few seconds of time, and then found myself gasping for air with a concerned coach, referee, and Dad huddled over me. Someone made a remark about how that's what happens when you get in the path of a kick from Maria, and I kind of got the impression I was strong just for having survived it. One of those years, Mom's friend's daughter was on the team. This was the same girl I went to guides with. I had played 2, maybe 3 summers of soccer at that point and hadn't scored any goals. Her very first game, someone kicked the ball and it bounced off her knee, ricocheted off past the other team's goalie and into the net. Unbelievable. I think that was the year I was on the team that really sucked. That team was also noteworthy because the girls were particularly unfriendly and unpleasant. I remember showing up for soccer practice wearing a hand-me-down t-shirt of Brothers. It was a remnant from that year they really tried to inspire school kids with health and fitness in school, and each day we all had to pause and do an exercise to music session they called the Health Hustle. The teachers would put on well-known hits from that era like Popcorn and The Hustle, and we all had to do some kind of choreographed calisthenics to it. So I showed up for soccer practice one day wearing that Health Hustle shirt of Brothers. One of the girls on the team looked at it with disgust and said, "The Health Hustle? What the hell is that?" I was a bit confused. Didn't all schools do this? Was it just a public school thing and maybe she went to a Catholic school? Anyway, I tried to explain, but she snorted in disgust and said, "That's stupid." Man, the things that bother you when you're a kid versus when you're an adult. I was mortified. That was also the year I suffered a rather huge embarrassment that delighted my own family for years. I just want to reiterate that I was not technically ever much of a sports kid. So picture it. Summer. Hot day. Flat white light from the scorching sun overhead. A junior high school standing quietly a ways behind. Picture a huge field, twice the length of a normal youth soccer field, with no trees and baked out grass. We were doing a practice drill that our coach had devised. We were going to line up and take turns getting a good run at the ball and try to kick it as far as we could. I guess it was to practice strength or something and maybe see if we had any potential of getting the ball from our own defense line to the imaginary other team's net. As I waited for my turn, I was really psyching myself up. I'm going to kick that ball so far. I was going to just haul back and drill that thing. I had visions of that kick just astonishing everyone, probably even going past the girl posted at the distant end as goalie and ball retriever. Yeah, I was going to kill it. My turn came. I started running, speed increasing, flying down the field toward the ball. I brought my right foot back, swung it forward with all my might, and kicked the back of my leg. Oh my God. How? I kind of knocked myself over. The rest of the team behind me burst into loud, ha, 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 guffaws of laughter. I kicked myself in my own calf, and it felt quite bad, if you must know. I don't know if that felt worse, or the humiliation of everyone loudly cracking up over it. At any rate, I missed my chance, and most likely spent the rest of practice trying not to cry. Good grief. That was the year we had a very nice but extremely meek coach. She was tall and skinny with short, sensible hair. During soccer games, when one of us wanted to come off the field because we were dying of heat or dying from constantly sucking, we'd signal to our coach and then she would attempt to get the referee's attention in a small, weak, gentle little voice. Ref, substitution. Ref, substitution. One of the burlier girls on the team. I'll do it for you, Mrs. So-and-so. Ref! Yo, ref! No, dear, I'll do it. Ref. You would be on the field dying before the ref finally heard her. That was the year when we were getting our team photo taken that I was goofing around and whispered to the girl beside me, I'm going to make a face like this. And the second I demonstrated that face I pretended I would make is precisely when they snapped the picture. So now forever I've got a picture where everyone else looks fine, but I'm smiling this goofy smile with my chin tucked in hard, creating a solid double chin underneath. My last year of soccer was also the year I got my first bra. At the end of grade 6, our teacher informed us that the next school year we all had to change into appropriate clothes for gym class. No ifs, ands, or buts. I was horrified. I was big-time modest and uncomfortable about that kind of thing. I had friends who were the total opposite, and most girls and women didn't seem to understand strong modesty. You'd hear, we're all girls, as a common phrase, meaning there is no reason to feel embarrassed because we're all girls here, so what the hell is your problem? Anyway, once I heard that from the teacher about mandatory gym clothes, I felt my stomach flip over. There was no way in hell I was going to whip my shirt off and reveal my boobies to anyone. There was no way around it. I would have to get a bra. And worse, I would have to tell Mom that I needed a bra. Let me tell you a little something about my mom. She brought new meaning to the word modesty. There's no way Mom was ever going to get changed in front of us, ever. I can remember being a little kid with Mom and going into the change room at Crystal Beach to get our bathing suits on for swimming. Crystal Beach was a popular lakeside amusement and water park with roller coasters, carnival-style games and attractions, and all kinds of fun rides as well. We got into the change room and Mom found a change room for me and a change room for her. I had to put my bathing suit on my little kid self alone, and I was instructed to not come into Mom's change room and wait until she came out. It felt a little disconcerting waiting there on the other side of the grubby curtain covering Mom's change stall. That room was full of ladies in various states of casual undress. There was one lady just standing around, hands on hips, enjoying life, with everything hanging out free for all to see. It was fascinating. That was not Mom, ever. Ever. Also, it was in grade 6 that we started to have sex ed. The boys went off into the library to have their mysterious guy talk with the principal, and we stayed in our classroom where we watched a mortifying movie that talked about hair down there, heavy petting, bodily changes, and periods. It was an older film and had a scene in it about how to attach your sanitary pad to its special belt. It actually showed a pad and belt contraption. I was freaked. I sat there thinking, that looks complicated. And how the hell was I going to finagle that crazy belt and pad contraption? And oh my God, was I really going to have to get an incredibly creepy maxi pad belt? I hate the belt. The belt is horrifying. Girls actually know how to work that belt? Luckily, I was unwittingly living in a time where technology had advanced beyond that instructional movie, and nobody was really clipping a pad to a belt thing any longer, but instead sticking it to their underpants. Also, I'd like to say that I always found the term heavy petting pretty gross. It was right in line with my one friend sneaking her book about how babies were made to school that one day. It was filled with cute cartoon pictures of a loving naked couple, and it was frank about intercourse, etc. I looked at that book at recess with my friends on the far side of the playground, in a slight alcove by the side of the gym, eyes wide with shock, and felt mildly ill about that book. No thank you. Meanwhile, the boys were out there in the library dying as the principal told them stuff about cold water effects and locker room comparison potential impact on self-confidence, and I got this in a secondhand report from my guy friends later that day. At the end of our sex ed session, we got this little booklet. On the cover, it had a swirly, aesthetic, stylized drawing of a young woman with flowers swirling around her under the title, "It's Wonderful Being a Girl." Let me tell you, after talking about perplexing pad belts, new body hair springing up all over the place, cramps and what have you, it did not sound like it was wonderful being a girl. It actually sounded like a shit deal. I was unnerved. I guess it's good I had to watch that super cringy, educational horror movie though, because I sure as hell wasn't getting anything out of Mom. Stupid maxi pad belts. I couldn't handle it. I had to get Mom to put my mind at ease about that stupid pad belt, even though we did not discuss this kind of stuff with Mom. And I can't stress enough how we did not talk about these things. It was so troubling, I had to bring it up. Mom, in her flustered and annoyed way, told me that women didn't even have to use those belts anymore. I nearly fainted with relief. I'm telling you, my whole life I'm tripped up and freaked out over some detail that no one else even seems to give a shit about. For some stupid reason, after having that special puberty class and getting that crazy booklet, my mind was fired up. That booklet was scary and fascinating all at the same time. It was like some top secret, classified document of femininity that you weren't eligible to even receive until you were on the cusp of becoming a woman. Or so the wording of the Times would have you believe. So much mystique and intrigue about that time when you're becoming a woman. Shh, it's top secret. At the back of the freaking booklet, it had a small question and answer section. You know, stuff that would surely be on the minds of new initiates to the club. One of the questions and its answer burned into my brain forever. What if a boy asked me to go swimming? The question read. And the assumption was, what if a boy asks you to go swimming when you're on your period? Da, da, da. Zoom in for intense close-up. And the answer? Just tell him you can't. He'll understand. That was one of the dumbest, least satisfying answers ever. Just tell him you can't? He'll understand? I don't know what other boys were like, but my guy friends were a bit naive and often clueless and not particularly savvy about girl things. I could only imagine that if one of them had ever said, "Hey, want to go swimming today?" and I serenely and in my most breezy, sophisticated voice said, "I can't." There is no way any of them would have said, "Oh, okay, I get it. No problem." No, it totally would have been, "Why not? Why? But why can't you go? Come on, we're all going swimming. Why won't you come?" Until I'd have been forced to reveal that I was menstruating. I mean, puberty is completely awkward. One year for a Christmas present, my Polish grandma crocheted me a sweater. It was in a teal, green, blue kind of color, and it was made from this soft, thick, fuzzy yarn. Did I mention it was thick? It was on the form-fitting side. I wore it to my school once and only once. I was in the hallway wearing that tight, damn thick sweater when a guy in my class happened to be passing by. "Hi, Bryce," I said. "Hi, Karen," he replied. "Nice tits." I died, and not in a good way. That was mortifying. You couldn't pay me to wear that sweater again, and there was no way I could explain to Mom, who wasn't too keen on combos like that, and that's putting it mildly. But I wouldn't wear it. Mom was not happy. "Grandma put a lot of work into that sweater. How come you never wear it?" "I don't know. It's kind of tight." "No, it's not. It's itchy. Grandma made that with special soft yarn. You don't like it, do you?" Not really." Mom, getting angrier. "That's not very nice. You'd better wear it sometime just so Grandma can see it then." Boys. Just tell him you can't. He'll understand. What a load of horseshit. Anyway, after that eye-opening class, for some reason, I was dying for Mom to chat with me about what I'd learned at school. Maybe even have her own birds and bees talk with me. So for the next few days, I would strategically leave my Secret World of Women guidebook in places around the house that were beyond obvious. Kind of like, "Oh, there's my book. Would you look at that, Mom? Silly me." And then surely Mom and I would sit down, probably in the good living room, and she'd be all motherly and comforting, and we'd have some actual bonding session. Mom would allay any fears I had about the great upheaval of becoming a woman. Yeah, nothing doing. That book would end up right back on my bed or dresser, and there was no conversation on puberty, and there was never going to be any conversation about it. Kids these days seem to know most of this stuff before they even have the awkward class about it. I can honestly say that I actually learned from what they taught in school. Oh, and Judy Blume books. Best young women books ever. Not too long after learning about it, I did get my period. I had no choice. I had to let Mom know. She was flustered and surprised. "Ah, my baby!" she exclaimed. "I can't believe it." She went and got me a pad from a stand-up linen cabinet in the pantry and said, "Here," and told me where the other ones were. And that was that. But here's the deal. For years, the pads, which were eventually for Mom, me, and my sister, were always kept in the cabinet in the pantry, which was downstairs and around the corner from the kitchen, beside the downstairs bathroom. It was once the world's tiniest bedroom for my brother when he was very little, and then it was my baby sister's nursery and bedroom, until she turned 3 and we became roommates. Then it finally got refurbished into a pantry, with access to the VCR and the electrical workings of the TV that was fitted into the wall in the TV room addition Dad built on in the late 70s. So, if you were upstairs in your bedroom and went to use the bathroom and discovered Aunt Flo had shown up, you had to shove an emergency wad of toilet paper into your undies, sneak downstairs like a shame-filled criminal, and thieve a pad out of that cabinet as subtly, silently, stealthily as possible. Then you palmed that pad carefully, or stuffed it down the front of your pants waistband, or in a pocket, and raced on back upstairs. Probably you had to wait for that critical moment Mom actually wasn't in the kitchen. As soon as she went down the basement to throw a load of laundry in, you would have to act fast and get yourself a pad. Time was of the essence. You didn't want Mom to hear because A, periods were top secret, unsavory topics and beyond embarrassing for Mom to even acknowledge. B, because periods were so mortifying for Mom, she'd get annoyed with you if you were to boldly strut out through with an obvious pad in your hand. C, you might even make your loving dad uncomfortable because he wasn't that interested in intruding on the business of ladies, ever. D, Mom might hear the crinkling sounds of the pad and immediately get pissed, thinking you were sneaking food. Because we did that, because we had a house that was overflowing with junk food delights, snacks as addictive as crack, but Mom did not comprehend lack of willpower, and you didn't just eat those euphoric snacks whenever you damn well felt like it. E, You basically learned quite quickly that after leaving your little booklet around, getting no response, and if you actually did ask mom something and receive that wall of massive grouchy discomfort, periods at our house were basically taboo. So my sister and I had to sneak our pads for years. Why we couldn't just have our own damn bag of pads in the upstairs bathroom is beyond me. Eventually, when I started working and having my own money, I started buying my own feminine hygiene products and keeping my stuff in the top drawer of my dresser. I even treated myself to pads with actual wings. Maybe the ones with the new technology that kept you feeling drier and cleaner. Maybe even the luxurious, ultra-thin ones. Mom was very thrifty, as I have mentioned, and she bought the cheapest Econo bag of pads the grocery store had to offer. No name, thick as a brick, and no wings, no moisture-wicking mesh. That big bag o' pads should literally have just had Maxi Pads written on the package in big bold letters. I even bought my younger sister some feminine junk at some point, but we had also learned eventually to hoard a few pads so we didn't have to go burgle any in our most urgent times of need. We also kept the bag of toilet paper rolls downstairs in the pantry. This was super inconvenient. Brother and I have fond memories of being trapped up there in the upstairs bathroom, needing some toilet paper, and nobody hearing the shouted request for a roll of toilet paper. You could be up there, literally shrieking for toilet paper until your own head was ringing, hear the TV going downstairs and people chatting, but nobody could hear you. Craziest house ever. Literally screaming out your plea for butt wipe. Can somebody please bring me a roll of toilet paper? Nada. So brother and I, without realizing we'd both had to resort to this from time to time, had been desperate enough to take that cardboard roll and try to peel it into as thin as possible layers of paper. Very hard and scrapey on the bum. I would even take those bespoke cardboard sheaths and try to crumple them in my hand first sometimes to try and work out some of the creases, corners, and edges. It wasn't by any means the best solution, but what the hell could you do? Try your best to squeeze those cheeks together, pull your pants back up, and waddle as carefully as possible all the way downstairs for that toilet paper? No thanks. I hadn't had a skid mark since I was a little kid, and I didn't plan on starting that up again. Do you even think my mother would be understanding about some poopy underpants coming her way? I think not. There came a point where we all had a bit of a family chat about it, and instead of agreeing to put a bag of toilet paper, or at least a few extra rolls upstairs in that bathroom, we all agreed that if we happened to yell down for a roll of toilet paper and a guest happened to be downstairs unbeknownst to the caller, that would be both uncouth and embarrassing. So it was decided that if the need ever arose, we would call down our request in code. Photo film cameras were still a big thing then, so someone came up with the idea that we'd just yell down and ask for a roll of film. And that was our more genteel code for toilet paper, a roll of film. As though at any given time one of us needed to just take more pictures. It was funny, but seemed like a logical solution. But then eventually, we just called a toilet roll a roll of film all the time, and didn't think anything of it until my boyfriend and future husband came on the scene and was perplexed and all, why the hell do you guys call it a roll of film? A lot of things in my family got a bit lost in translation. Yeah, so as I was saying, somewhere along the way here, my last year of soccer was also the summer I got my first bra. I would have to get a bra, and unfortunately, I would have to tell Mom that I needed a bra. Oh, the agony. I just flat out told her, Mom, I'm going to need a bra for school. This made my mother extremely uncomfortable once again, and she nearly always showed this through impatience and annoyance, anger. One night, not long thereafter, we headed off to the nearby department store. There was a bin of bras in the ladies' intimates section, as well as bras on hangers. Of course, I had no clue what the hell my bra size would be, and neither did Mom. She awkwardly held some up in front of me and tried to eyeball stuff. Eventually, she came up with a few choices and said, Here, go try these on, and directed me to one of those dim, grubby change room stalls with the heavy pull curtain over the doorway. I barely knew how to put the thing on, but somehow I figured it out. Kinda. How's that? Mom called from outside the change room. All right, I guess. Well, is it the right size or isn't it? In the end, It was so awkward and uncomfortable that I chose some small, white, generic bra with a bit of lace around the bottom and made from something like that scratchy, unbreathable kind of material that curtain shears are made from. I wasn't particularly happy about it, but I figured I'd be safe from having to deal with it until school started again. No such luck. Now that I had a bra, Mom told me I had to get used to it, and so I had to start wearing it. And that meant I had to wear it to soccer practice. It didn't actually fit the best, and the lace was scratchy, and that, mixed with the baking heat and humidity, made for one unpleasant undergarment. I can remember clipping across the school parking lot to the field behind where our soccer practices were that year, with my soccer cleats making that fun sound cleats make on pavement, distinctly aware of my stupid bra. And even worse, when I'd get very sweaty, like after soccer practice, sweat would actually pool in the little ledge of fabric between my hoots. That last summer of soccer was the year we had a fairly serious, rather no-nonsense, rough-around-the-edges soccer coach. I'd been used to 2 nice lady coaches, and 1 easygoing male coach before Mr. S, who were a lot gentler of demeanor, and more indulgent, I guess. Mr. S had very little patience for girls being girly. Soccer was serious, and he wanted us to be serious about soccer. It didn't really help that the team kind of sucked too. Where we practiced was on a vast grassy area of the combined fields of 2 schools, connected together. During practice there was lots of hesitance from the team and lack of sporty aggression. Hands held daintily in the air as we tried to have our rather awkward scrimmages. There would be lots of fumbly kicking and lots of, "Oops, oopsie, oops, sorry," as the ball flew about where the ball should not, or if one girl accidentally kicked another girl instead of the ball, etc. Mr. S got so sick of this one day that he loudly informed us, "The next one of ye that says oopsie is gonna run from here to that school over there and back 5 times." During one of our games, unbeknownst to me while I was sucking on the playing field, Mr. S was watching with great frustration on the sidelines and grumbled disgustedly, "Ach, you kick like your mother." Only thing was, Mom happened to be standing right near him, and she kind of found it funny, but was also thinking, "Hey," with a little indignation. She basically said after that it was too bad he'd said that too, because she thought he was actually kind of handsome. Handsome? Pfft, I could not see it. I figured every adult was mega old, plus I found him fairly scary. And he had a beard. To each his own, I guess. That was the only year I actually had the one and only amazing kick of my career. It was on a scorching summer day on yet another baked-out soccer field. We weren't doing too badly because the other team's goalie, sadly, really sucked. At one point, a girl on the other team booted the ball high into the air. It was coming down right toward me, where I was standing on the halfback line. One of the pricklier girls on my team, who I also went to school with, and who was never particularly nice there either, said, "Give it a good one, Corfield," as the ball was sailing down toward me. I didn't even have time to freak out. My leg shot out and my foot connected with the ball beautifully, right on the laces, sending the ball in a long, smooth, high arc directly to the other team's net. The crowd of parents watching actually let out an awe-filled "Ah" as it sailed through the air. Unfortunately, they'd subbed out the poor inept goalie for a new girl not long before this play. The ball hit the ground right in front of her and bounced up high. She leapt, almost missed it, but managed to fumble out a catch. I'd come fantastically close, closer than I ever had, but there would be no goal for me. What I didn't realize, though, was that Dad was going absolutely bananas on the sidelines. He was giddy with joy as he watched that ball hurtle through the air right to the other team's goalie. He was so excited, in fact, that he called me Thunderfoot for the rest of my soccer career. Whenever I'd come down in my soccer uniform thereafter, be it for practice or a game, Dad would say, "Here comes Thunderfoot," with great admiration and enthusiasm. But that was Dad. He was always trying to build my low confidence and trying to build me up to believe in myself more. I was super nervous before every practice, and especially nervous before every game. He'd give me a pep talk every time before I went. I appreciated it very much, but I'm not sure how much it helped. One time in soccer early years before a game, I was sitting in my backyard on the grass. I was outside a lot as a kid. I was sitting there eating clover, just plucking little tangy green leaves and eating them. I also used to enjoy picking those pink clover flowers when I'd see them, pulling out the little individual petals and sucking the nectar out of the bottom. I thought clover tasted very nice as a kid. However, I ate enough clover that I got a bit of a stomachache, and that coupled with the nervous stomachache I always got before games, well, I didn't feel too great. Listen, you're probably sitting there thinking, what the hell kind of crazy kid eats clover? I don't think the basic diet was the best in the 70s, and especially the 80s. As I look back on that now, I realize that I, and most other kids, probably lacked vital nutrients and definitely lacked fiber. Here's a little example. Mom struggled with her iron levels and keeping them up. Before she found out she was anemic, she went through a good period of being addicted to eating ice chips. You can look it up. A craving for ice is an actual sign of iron deficiency. She would fill up a plastic bag with ice cubes, go down to the basement and pound the bag on the hard cement floor until the ice broke down into ice chips, and then she could just eat it and rave over how delicious it was. Then she had a blood test and lo and behold, iron deficient. Medically inclined mom found that so fascinating. To me, it potentially explains why kids love eating snow. When I was a kid, I thought it was delicious. Fresh, white snow, so good. Now as an adult, I never feel like eating snow. A lot of kids aren't too fond of meat and especially red meat, nor are they too crazy generally about any iron-rich vegetable substitutes. Think about it. So there I was as a kid, and salads were most often iceberg lettuce, the palest, crispest, most delicious lettuce of all, but not much chlorophyll goodness. I only liked broccoli when Mom cooked it first, then baked it with a bit of Italian tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese. Other than that, ugh. Cooked spinach was horrifying. I loved green beans, but only from a can. All dull army green, salty and soft. Brother hated them and said they squeaked on his teeth. Breakfast cereals all had cartoon guys on the front, were mostly made from corn or rice, and were drenched in sugar. No fiber there. Bread was white, fluffy, and fiber-free. Oatmeal was blech when I was a little kid. Cream of wheat was repellent, so next to no fiber, and very little rich, vibrant green veg in my life. Oh, but you'll love this. When I was a very small kid, probably around the skid mark polyester shorts days, I used to eat, wait for it, towel strings. I kid you not. I can still kind of conjure that wholesome, tasty cotton flavor if I really think about it. Not that I'm ever going to eat towel strings again. And no, I don't ever crave towel strings anymore. See, when nobody was watching and I'd be in the bathroom, I'd grab that fresh towel, pinch my little teeth together and grab a little towel nub, yank that string out, and eat it. I thought it tasted great. And guess what? This had some consequences. Now, how do I put this as nicely as possible? Little Karen was going to the bathroom one time, and something couldn't drop into the toilet because it was attached to a towel string, and the other end of the string was still attached to me. I wailed out for Mom, who was rather dumbstruck when she saw my predicament. She tried to give the string a little pull. I imagined it felt like it was tugging on vital innards. I freaked. Mom had to get the scissors and cut the string. Lots of horrified crying on my end. Complete bafflement on Mom's end. I gave up towel strings cold turkey. Well, whatever. I'm going to guess that my little self was dying for some damn fiber. So there. I also tried to eat grass when I was quite young. I figured cows ate grass, so I'd probably better try to get used to eating grass myself. Too gross. Couldn't do it. All unchewable blades. Not at all pleasant like clover. You know, there were a few times that I actually had serious talks with my younger self about stuff I really believed would be inevitable, so I'd better get used to the idea. I figured I'd eventually have to stand up to pee, so I'd better start practicing. I tried it once. Girls aren't designed to do that and actually be able to hit the toilet. I also had some musings about how even though it seemed a little scary, I'd have to shave my face one day when I was older just like Dad, so I'd better get used to that idea. It didn't sound pleasant, but when you're an adult, you gotta do what you gotta do. After that nervous pre-game Clover binge, I don't recall really eating much of that stuff after that. So that was 4 summers of soccer. I never really relaxed and enjoyed it that much, and I'd had enough by that point and declined signing up for a 5th summer. Dad was a little disappointed. I only remember the soccer banquet from one year. That was in the fall, I believe, and what I remember about it was there was a girl there, attractive, excellent blonde hair, and she was wearing leg warmers that matched her sweater. And that is what made an impression on me. She had leg warmers that matched her sweater. Mind blown. I thought that was freaking amazing, and I coveted that ensemble. I still think from time to time about the girl whose leg warmers matched her sweater. Oh, the style!